Hello, guys. Good morning. I hope that everyone that is listening to us is in a great condition despite being in a pandemic. I hope that everyone is safe and healthy. And welcome to the Pitching In radio show. My name is Nadia, and my metric number is 67388. I am your host for today, and our story today is about local community development, where we have several students from Political and Government Research UNIMAS to talk with us. We are going to be talking about a development issue using the Marxist theory. First, let us get to know our speakers first.
Hi, my name is Nurfazrina with metric number 67290. Thanks for inviting me, Nadia.
You are much welcome, Fazrina. Next, we have
Hi, my name is Meling Minggu. My metric number is 66617. Thank you, Nadia, for inviting me.
Yes, Meling. Next.
Hi Nadia, good morning. My name is Angelia Frenster and my metric number is 68475. Thank you Nadia to invite me.
Hi, Angela. Yes, you are welcome. And lastly, we have
Hello guys, and thank you Nadia for inviting us for today. My name is Alcy Constontine. My metric number is 68457. Goes back to you, Nadia.
well, what a great speakers we have today. Okay, guys. Well, what do we have in the first round of questions and answer, ladies and gentlemen? Yes, I will be asking to them regarding what do Marxist theory thinks about how to improve worker conditions.
Marxist approach to power are distinctive in focusing on its relation to class domination in capital society. This theory has shown how class power is dispersed throughout society in order to avoid economic reductionism. Marx believed that the condition of worker could not improve as long as profit was accumulated by private capitalists. Capitalist and worker relation has been linked in production. Marxists have emphasized the power relations that are beginning to be formed in the organization of the labor process. The relationship between the two is not so good because capitalists only want to achieve maximum profits, but they only want to invest capital at low cost, while the worker wants a high salary, but they want a little work.
Wow, interesting point of view, Fazrina. From your explanation, I really think that Marx's theory regarding the development and socialism is that he truly believes that the workers need to be treated evenly and should not feel like they are under the possessions of the owner or the capitalist people. Well, very interesting point of view and perspective, Fazrina. Well, next, I'm going to ask Meling, Elsie, and Angie regarding the basic principle of the theory.
The basic principle theory that I really understand regarding the Marxist theory of development and socialism is worker must construct a radically socialist society where all property is socially controlled. Marxist posits that the struggle between social classes, specifically between the burghers or capitalists and the proletariat or workers, define economy relation in a capitalist economy and will inevitably lead, lead to revolutionary communism. This will be communist society, and Communist Party was the natural society of the future. This is because Karl Marx described a socialist society as such as the same amount of labor which has given the society in one received back in other. Socialism is a post-commodity economy system and production is carried out to directly produce use value rather than towards generating profit.
Okay, Nadia. According to the basic principle of Marx theory, workers had to overthrow capitalism and the rule of private property. Marx believed that to free them from exploitation, they need to overthrow capitalism and from a socialist society. He was convinced that workers would triumph in their conflict with capitalists.
Well, thank you to all my friends. I'm just going to give a brief summary about this theories of development since we all share the same opinion about this. So for me, Marxist is a principle that is based on materialism and acquisition of wealth via capitalist approach. So in short, these theories explain that the relationship between social classes and the relation in production. Okay, so social class refers to the capitalists and workers, in which capitalists exploit the labor force to generate the highest profit as possible in relations of production, yet invest a little money. And while workers are being manipulated to maximize their manpower in labor, while generating puny wages. So therefore, capitalists are getting richer and workers are remain poorer. So that is my point of view about this. Thank you.
Wow, interesting. I really like your point of view. And from your explanations regarding the basic principle of the theory, we can understand that Marxism is focusing on materialism and possession of wealth through the capitalist approach. That is so amazing and fascinating regarding how Marxism defines economic relation within the capitalist economy and how it will lead to revolutionary communism. Next, I would like to hear about a problem that has occurred because of the Marxist theory. Would you like to join us, Fazrina, to explain?
Yes, thank you, Nadia. This has caused argument between capitalists and workers due to the existence of direct control of power over workers. Both sides have their own implications for the class struggle and the division of power between labor and capital. The capitalists will compete with each other, and the successful capitalists will become more richer and richer, while the losing capitalists will fall into the working class. Meanwhile, the workers who are exploited by the capitalists will become increasingly poor. Marxist has conducted a thorough study of the organizational process of production and emphasized the relative importance of industrial or financial capital, capital monopolies, and so on.
Okay, next. Socialism, social and economic doctrine that call for public rather than private ownership or control of property and natural resources. According to their social view, individuals do not live or work in isolation but live in cooperation with one another. Furthermore, everything that people produce in is in some sense a social product, and everyone who contributes to the production of a good is entitled to a share in it. Society as a whole therefore should own or at least control property for the benefit for all its members. The conviction puts socialism in opposition to capitalism, which is based on private ownership of the means of production and allow individual choice in a free market to determine how goods and services are distributed. Socialists compile that capitalism necessarily lead to unfair and exploitative concentration of wealth and power in the hands of the relative few who emerges victorious from the free market competition. People who then use their wealth and power to reinforce their dominance in society.
Wow, thank you, Meling. Next, I would like to listen a view from Angie and Elsie as well.
Okay, Nadia. Marx argued that industrial society was based on capitalism. Capitalists own the capital, invest in factories, and the profit of capitalists was produced by workers. The condition of workers could not improve as long as this profit was accumulated by private capitalists. Hence, it is essential to overthrow private capitalists. This would finally destroy the rule of private property. Marx want the workers to construct a radical socialist society where all property was socially controlled. This was the only way through which they would free themselves from capitalist exploitation.
Okay, so from my points of view, these theories are applicable to forced labor situation, also known as modern-day slavery, whereas poorer people are being manipulated by certain individuals or businesses to do heavy work for disproportionate pay. And this situation happens across the globe, especially in the poorest country, and much applies to individuals working as a laborers in the construction sites and agriculture, where this job require workers to do heavy and strenuous work. And next is that I think that poverty is the main reason why workers allow themselves to be discriminated against by the capitalists, in which capitalists gain so much benefits from the poorer people. So, however, the rising conflict between capitalist and worker in forced labor situation has yet to be seen, as worker doesn't stand up for their right. Okay, that is my point of view.
Wow, really interesting. Whew. This theory can be very intimidating, doesn't it? And somehow there are always two sides of everything, and we cannot expect that every theory does not have its own cons. Moving on to the next question, I would like to know exactly in what country or places that have encountered this kind of problem where the capitalist controls everything and the poor seems to be poorer and the rich are getting more rich. Would you care to explain it to me and our listener, my dear students from UNIMAS?
Yes, most of this problem has occurred in Europe. One of the countries that having this problem is Russia. Before 20th century, most of the industry were owned by industrialists. The industrialist system that developed in the 18th century are based on private ownership of capital like land and factory. Capitalists are driven by the profit motive, where they are desired to make more money. In capitalism, labor is supplied by paid workers who are often exploited by the capitalists. The government will supervise large factories to ensure the minimum wage and also the working hour. Workers sometimes need to work for 15 hours in craft unit and small workshop, while for big factory, workers need to work for 10 to 12 hours. Farmers need to work for 16 hours. The worker will be divided into different social groups and also by the skill. The wages for female worker were less than a male worker. The conditions in the factory were extremely harsh and little concern was shown for the workers' health and safety. The worker want a reduction in the working day and an increasing in wages. They also want an improvement in working conditions.
Okay, this problem can be found in Russia. This is because socialism in Russia is an economic system characteristic by social ownership and control of the means of production and cooperative management of the economy, and a political philosophy advocating such a system. There are no countries that 100% socialist, according to the Socialist Party of United Kingdom. Most have mixed economy that incorporate socialism with capitalist communism or both. The five Nordic countries, Norway, Finland, Sweden, Denmark, and Iceland, have strongly socialist systems. The state, on behalf of the peoples, owns a largest percentage of the economy. It spends a large portion on education, housing, and public welfare. A larger percentage of the workers are unionized, granting them greater power. There are six types of socialism. They are different on how capitalism can best be written into socialism and emphasize different aspects of socialism. 1. Democratic socialism. 2. Voluntary socialism. 3. Libertarian socialism. 4. Market socialism. 5. Green socialism. 6. Christian socialism. 7. Utopian socialism. And lastly, Fabian socialism.
Well, that is
Okay.
very interesting. Okay, next I would like to have Angie and as well as Elsie to explain your point of view.
Okay, Nadia. This problem has already occurred in Russia. This problem can be seen through the 1971 Russian Revolution. The Russian Revolution of 1917 referred to revolution in Russia, including the February Revolution that led to the overthrow of Tsar Nicholas II and the Bolshevik communist uprising known as the October Revolution, which also saw the Tsar family should die. This revolution was the only revolution successfully carried out by ordinary workers, peasants, and soldiers in Russia. They managed to take over the government in Russia and oust the pro-capitalist Kerensky government. The Russian Revolution was not a coup or conspiration by a small group of Bolsheviks, but the uprising of millions of Russian subordinated who joined in a great mass movement, organized democratic rallies, mobilized for million action, and finally overthrew the old social order, landlord, big capitalist, and instigator of war. The Russian Revolution was the result of an eruption of democracy and revolutionary creativity. This great revolution gave hope and impetus to the working class and the lower class all over the world to rise up to fight for a more just socialist society. However, it is unfortunate that this revolution was later destroyed by a brutal counter-revolution and replaced by bureaucracy of government.
Okay, so as the other members have mentioned before, Marxism practice widely occurs in Russia, where the inequality treatments among social classes happen. So this Karl ideas regarding the development, together with Friedrich Engels, ignite political movement in Russia in 1917 to remove the capitalist and autocratic regimes in power. And many others believe that because of his theories on the fault of capitalism, the need to destroy it in favor of socialism, and the eventual conversion of socialism into communism, and the system of government in power in many industrialization nation need changing. So that is from me, just a short summary. Okay, back to Nadiatul.
Okay, wow, there are so many types of socialism that most of us that are listening might have no idea at all what it is. Glad that Meling has listed down of it to us. Okay, thank you for the explanation regarding the place that the problem has occurred, which is in Russia. And moving on to the next question, me and the listener are very eager to learn about the strengths and obviously that there are weaknesses as well. Therefore, we would very much love to hear the explanation regarding the strengths and the weaknesses of the Marxist theory.
Many things will have strength and weakness. Based on Marxist theory, this show that there is an explosive relation that take place under the system of capitalism that make them commit fraud by dominating voluntary market exchange. Based on the capitalist economy conduct, the success rate in production has been determined by the ability of worker in producing surplus value. The value of the surplus produced indicate that the output has become value that the sacrifice made by laborers. Laborers had to sell their labor, their energy to ensure that they could survive either fairly or unfairly. This is because they have no choice but to, to, to spend their energy. How about you, Meling?
Okay. For me, the strength of this story is first, Marxist theory discusses in detail the aspect contents in a complex phenomena ranging from the cause of conflict, conflicting groups, and the development of the conflict itself. Conflict resolution to the development in post-conflict society. Second, the superiority of Marx's theory lies in the intelligence of Marx in classifying social classes in society that are in a principle very contradictory. Third, the strength of another theory of Marx's is in the analysis in describing the cause of class obsession. And lastly, Marx's theory look at the process of development of a complex conflict to how the conflict is resolved, and it's also the ability of Marxist theory in predicting the ends of conflicts. And the weakness of this theory also first believe in the corrections of collective consciousness of classes, consciousness in permanent working classes. Second, inability to look at conflict issue in more detail. And lastly, the analysis is looking at the conflict in still too simple or narrow. How about you, Angie?
Okay, thank you, Meling. In my opinion, the strength of the theory are creating an aspiring socialist society with clarity of argument, not by means of violence and revolution. Second problem should be resolved in a democratic way, and then flexible in terms of the struggle to repair bad luck gradually. And then the weakness of the theory are socialism, statement of war on the desire of individual who have culminated in poverty, ownership to support their family and children as a form of love for their future life. Second, opposition of socialism to religion on the ground that religion recognize private ownership and accept the fact that they are different in social structure in society. Religion also opposes the materialistic theory of socialists in life that only make human beings as tools employed with food, drink, clothing, and shelter as the wages of his sacrifice to the state. That's all from my opinion. How about you, Elsie?
Thank you, Angelia. Wow, I can't believe that we already at the final question, yeah? So I'm just going to proceed with my opinion. I do find strengths and weaknesses in this Karl Marx theory. Okay, so the strength that I find in this theory is that Karl Marx ideas on how everyone should be treated the same manner, despite of different social classes, and the distribution of wealth among societies must be divided fairly. Okay, so where workers must be paid in proportion to the work done, and capitalists must stop exploiting labor for their own benefit. And when the capitalists treat labor well, the burgers and proletariat conflicts will be prevented. It is can prevented. So for the weaknesses I find in this theory is that Marxism's key flaw is that it's lead to the state dictatorship. When the government owns everything, it may easily suppress individual liberties, act arrogantly, and mismanage resources poorly. So these classic Marxisms regard state ownership as a passing phase that will end with the state withering in favor of utopic anarchy. But it also offers no realistic alternative. So that is what I find my opinion about this theory lah. So let's go back to DJ Nadiatul. Thank you.
Well, well, thank you all for the brilliant explanation and very intriguing to our mind. Therefore, I would like to conclude a little bit based on my understanding within your explanation of the Marxist theory, where we can see that from the basic principle of it states that the worker needs to be free from exploitation and they need to overthrow capitalism and form a socialist society. Wow, there is a problem that occurred, which is there was an argument between the capitalists and workers due to the existence of the direct control of power over workers. However, at the same time, one of its great strengths was also its great weakness as an analytic model. Marxism is a very powerful mechanism for exploring historical and sociological causation, but it also tends to be a totalizing narrative. For Marxists, everything tends to be driven by class struggle and economic factors. Once again, I thank you for being here to entertain us with the Pitching In radio show where we discuss theories in sociology development. It is such a pleasure for me to have all of you on the show today. Thank you.
Thank you so to
Yes,
Nadia.
Thank you.
Thank you.
yes. Thank you, DJ Nadiatul, for inviting us. We have so much fun.
I'm glad that you have so much fun, yeah, with our radio show today. See you guys again in the next Pitching In radio show where we
Bye.
will be discussing another theory. Thank you.